Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something I think a lot of us fundamentally misunderstand, and that's the quiet power of presence. We hear so much about, commanding a room, but what if true presence doesn't require raising your voice or putting on a big act at all? Let's explore the actual science and psychology behind why showing up as your true, unedited self is literally the most magnetic thing you can do.
When you think of someone with a lot of presence, you probably picture a really loud, manufactured performance, right? Like the practiced charisma of a slick politician or a smooth-talking salesperson. But let's go ahead and bust that myth right now. True presence is absolutely not a loud, manufactured performance. In fact, real power and real presence is actually about a quiet, internal alignment.
Section 1. Beyond surface-level impressions.
Okay, let's dive into this. At the very surface level, we have what's called impression management, and this is that absolutely exhausting daily grind of regulating our behavior just to express a manufactured self to the people around us. Think about it. How much of your own energy goes into faking it, like nodding along in a brutal 2-hour meeting just to avoid ruffling feathers? Operating from this level completely drains you, and honestly, people can subconsciously tell you're just putting on a performance.
Now, directly contrasting that exhausting faking it is true authenticity. For example, if you stay quiet in a meeting simply because you're terrified of being judged, well, that's external regulation. It's inauthentic. But if you stay quiet because you hold a genuine, deeply personal value to respect and listen to others, that's integrated regulation. It's the exact same outward behavior, but driven by an entirely different internal engine. Real power doesn't require forcing anything. When we finally drop that heavy armor of impression management, we enter a state called autotelicity. Now, I know that's a big, fancy word, but it really just means doing an activity or engaging with the world simply for its own sake. It's that beautiful flow state where just being present is its own reward. You aren't acting to get a specific reaction out of someone, you're just fully immersed in the joy of the present moment.
Section 2. Rogers and internal congruence.
So how do we actually get to that authentic flow state? Let's look a bit deeper into this psychology. The legendary psychologist Carl Rogers pointed out that we all have a real self, which is our authentic thoughts and feelings right now, and an ideal self, which is who we believe we should be, usually because of some external pressure. When there's a massive gap between those two selves, we experience what Rogers called incongruence. And that gap, that is exactly where anxiety, insecurity, and defensiveness live.
So, where exactly does that ideal self come from? Well, Rogers points to conditions of worth. Take a quick second right now and think back to your own childhood. Did you ever learn that love and approval came with strings attached? Like, maybe you were only praised when you got straight A's, or you were told to hide certain emotions. We absorb that conditional acceptance, and it forces us to constantly perform to meet those external standards, rather than just being allowed to exist exactly as we are.
Getting rid of those conditions of worth is seriously hard work. As Rogers beautifully put it, this process of the good life is not, I am convinced, a life for the faint-hearted. It involves the courage to be. I really want to emphasize that word, courage. Becoming a fully functioning person means shedding the facade. It literally requires the bravery to exist authentically, dropping all that armor you built up to protect yourself.
Section 3. The somatics of embodiment.
You see, true presence isn't just some intellectual exercise happening up in your head. It's a raw, biological state. The research introduces this concept of somatic coherence. This is what happens when your body, your mind, and your heart finally align after all the stress and dysregulation fades away. It's that incredible sensation of coming home to your body, completely free from the mind's constant, anxious narration playing in the background.
And this internal state translates directly to the outside world. Chronic fear literally shapes your body from the inside out. It changes your posture, it tightens your muscles, it even changes the tone of your voice. But when you achieve somatic coherence, that quiet internal state physically manifests. Your posture becomes upright but relaxed, your eye contact gets curious, and your movements just naturally settle. You project presence without even trying.
Actually, let's just break the fourth wall for a second here. Notice your own posture right now as you're listening. Are you slumped over? Are you holding tension in your jaw or maybe your shoulders? Are your eyes darting around? We can use this quick checklist from somatic psychology to evaluate ourselves. Tracking your body's physical cues like this is really the very first step to dropping that mental chatter and returning to the present.
Section 4. Entering the deep present.
Once we connect with the body, we can guide ourselves even deeper into what the texts call the ontologic depths, basically a profound dynamic state of just being. This brings us to a real game changer from psychotherapy called therapeutic presence. Studies show that when professionals learn to anchor themselves completely in reality, literally dropping their egos, their theories, and their own worries, they completely transform the session for the client. Just bringing your whole self to an encounter is healing all on its own.
Let's see how this actually builds into a framework. Practitioners achieve this powerful state in 3 steps. First is receptivity, which means bodily taking in the experience without any judgment. Second, inwardly attending, meaning they use their own physical and emotional resonance as an instrument to understand the other person. And finally, extending and contact, which is authentically meeting that other person's essence.
I absolutely love the metaphorical language used here. Achieving this state is described as a descent. You aren't building some ladder upward. No, you are taking a seat in being. You're establishing deep roots in reality. It's this beautiful process of letting go of your need to control, and instead, just letting be. You anchor yourself to the source rather than constantly projecting yourself outward.
Section 5. Shifting the relational field.
So, we've talked a lot about what happens inside you, but how does this actually alter the energy of the entire room? Well, the texts describe this level of presence as an emptying out of the self. By bracketing your biases, your preconceptions, and that desperate need to be the smartest person in the room, you become a pure vessel. And here's the magic. When you are fully present like that, it provides a profoundly healing nature to the space around you. People feel it instinctively.
And this brings us right back to Carl Rogers and his concept of unconditional positive regard. This means offering a warm, consistent, totally non-judgmental acceptance to another person. It is the absolute antidote to those conditions of worth we talked about earlier. When you extend this kind of regard from a grounded place, it heals the relational field. It dissolves the forced performance in other people, making them feel safe enough to be authentic too.
This quote really hits the nail on the head when it comes to the ultimate power of grounding. A therapist, reflecting on their experience, said, "Feeling so steady so the client can go through all that, but you feel so steady that it does not touch you." That right there is the quiet power of presence. You become an unshakable anchor for others in the midst of their chaos, not by trying to fix them, but by maintaining your own solid, centered reality. So if there is one absolutely crucial takeaway from our explainer today, it's this. True presence is not what you do to a room. It's not how loud your voice is, it's not practiced charisma, and it's certainly not impression management. It is who you are willing to be within that room. Achieving a quiet, certain internal alignment effortlessly commands the space, because authenticity is just undeniably magnetic. Which leaves us with a final question to chew on. Think about the armor you wear every day and the exhausting performance you put on just for external validation. If you were to drop that performance right now and stop relying on what others think, listening instead to your own authentic core, are you finally ready to just be? Thanks so much for exploring this with us today. Until next time, take a deep breath and practice your presence.